He's Morpheus. He's the voice of wisdom in the Matrix trilogy. He's the commanding presence who's graced screens for over 4 decades, delivering performances that combine intelligence, intensity, and undeniable gravitas. Laurence Fishburne has built a career that most actors only dream of. Academy Award nominations, Emmy wins, Tony Awards, and the respect of everyone in the industry. But behind that dignified exterior, behind the powerful voice and the controlled performances, lies a story of heartbreak that few people know. Personal losses that would break most people. Family struggles that played out in the most public and painful ways imaginable. Professional disappointments that stung despite all his success. And the journey through grief, betrayal, and resilience that reveals the human being behind the iconic roles. At 64 years old, Laurence Fishburne has faced tragedies that go beyond what we see on screen. Today, we're exploring the real story, not to exploit his pain, but to understand how someone maintains dignity and continues creating art even when life delivers devastating blows. This is about more than one actor's struggles. It's about fatherhood and watching helplessly as your child makes destructive choices. It's about love and loss. It's about the gap between public success and private suffering. And it's about finding the strength to keep going when everything falls apart. The tragedy of Laurence Fishburne is heartbreaking, but it's also a story of remarkable resilience. Laurence John Fishburne III was born in Augusta, Georgia in 1961, but grew up in Brooklyn, New York. His parents divorced when he was young, and he was raised primarily by his mother, Hattie, a junior high school mathematics and science teacher. This upbringing with a strong, educated mother would shape his values and his approach to his craft. Fishburne discovered acting early. At just 10 years old, he appeared in his first play. By 12, he was already working professionally, appearing in soap operas and television shows. But his breakthrough came at age 14 when he was cast in Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, lying about his age to get the role because the character was supposed to be 17. The filming of Apocalypse Now in the Philippines lasted over a year, and it became Fishburne's education in serious filmmaking. He watched Coppola work, observed how Martin Sheen and Marlon Brando approached their craft, and absorbed lessons about dedication to art that would define his entire career. Throughout the 1980s, Fishburne built his reputation in theater, film, and television. He wasn't chasing stardom, he was pursuing excellence. He worked off-Broadway, took challenging roles, and developed a reputation as an actor's actor. His work in plays like Two Trains Running earned them critical acclaim and demonstrated his range beyond what film audiences typically saw. His major film breakthrough came with Boyz in the Hood in 1991, where he played Furious Styles, a father trying to guide his son through the dangers of South Central Los Angeles. The role showcased Fishburne's ability to convey wisdom, authority, and deep emotion. It wasn't just a performance, it was a statement about Black fatherhood, responsibility, and dignity. Then came What's Love Got to Do with It in 1993, where he played Ike Turner opposite Angela Bassett's Tina Turner. The role earned him an Academy Award nomination and proved he could embody complex, even unlikable characters with depth and nuance. He didn't shy away from Ike's abusive behavior. He portrayed it honestly while still finding the humanity in the character. The Matrix in 1999 made him a global icon. As Morpheus, the sage mentor guiding Neo through the revelation of reality, Fishburne delivered lines that became cultural touchstones. His presence elevated the entire trilogy, bringing gravitas to science fiction concepts that could have seemed ridiculous in less capable hands. By the early 2000s, Laurence Fishburne had achieved everything an actor could want: critical respect, commercial success, iconic roles, and the admiration of his peers. But his personal life was about to become far more complicated than any role he'd ever played. This is where Laurence Fishburne's story becomes genuinely heartbreaking. In 2010, news would break that would devastate any parent and humiliate anyone in the public eye. His daughter, Montana Fishburne, had entered the adult film industry. Montana was Fishburne's daughter from his first marriage to Hajna Omas. By all accounts, Laurence had tried to be a present and involved father despite his demanding career and his divorce from Montana's mother. He'd provided for her, supported her interests, and hoped she would follow a positive path. Instead, at 19, Montana made a decision that would create a public scandal and private anguish for her father. She didn't quietly enter the adult industry, she actively sought publicity for it, giving interviews where she explicitly stated she was trying to become famous like Kim Kardashian, whose own path to fame had involved a leaked intimate video. For Laurence Fishburne, this wasn't just embarrassing, it was devastating. Imagine being a respected actor known for dignified, powerful performances and watching your daughter publicly associate your family name with explicit content? Imagine trying to protect and guide your child, only to have her make choices that hurt herself and damage the family publicly. What made it worse was Montana's apparent belief that this was a legitimate path to success. In interviews at the time, she spoke about it as a career decision, showing a fundamental misunderstanding of the exploitation inherent in that industry and the long-term consequences of her choices. Fishburne's response was notably restrained and dignified. He didn't publicly attack or disown his daughter. Through representatives, he made clear that he was disappointed and did not support her decisions, but he didn't engage in a public family war. But the pain was evident to anyone paying attention. Montana's story grew worse from there. Over the following years, she struggled with substance abuse issues and had multiple legal problems, including arrest. She appeared to be a young woman in crisis, making increasingly destructive choices despite having resources and family support available to her. For Laurence, this meant watching helplessly as his daughter self-destructed publicly. There's a special kind of agony in being a parent of an adult child who's making terrible decisions. You can't force them to change, you can't protect them from consequences, and you have to watch them suffer from choices you warned them against. Friends and colleagues have described how much this situation affected Fishburne. He's an intensely private person who values dignity and discretion. Having his family's struggles play out as tabloid fodder was torture. Yet he continued working, continued showing up professionally, and maintained his composure even as he dealt with private heartbreak. The situation also highlighted painful realities about fatherhood, particularly for Black fathers in the public eye. Fishburne had tried to be present and supportive, but genetics, mental health issues, and bad influences can override even the best parenting. Yet society often judges fathers, especially famous fathers, as having somehow failed when their children struggle. Montana wasn't Fishburne's only source of personal pain. His romantic relationships have also been marked by both joy and heartbreak. His first marriage to Hajna Omas produced 2 children, Montana and a son, Langston, but ended in divorce in the early 1990s. While he has remained private about the details, divorces involving children are always difficult, and the arrangement required him to co-parent while maintaining his career. In 2002, Fishburne married actress Gina Torres, known for her work in shows like Firefly and Suits. The marriage seemed solid. 2 accomplished actors who understood the demands of the profession. They had a daughter together, Delilah, in 2007, and for years presented a picture of a successful blended family. But in 2017, after 15 years of marriage, Torres and Fishburne quietly separated. The following year, Torres filed for divorce, which was finalized in 2018. While both have maintained respect and privacy regarding their split, sources close to the couple suggested that distance created by demanding work schedules had contributed to the breakdown of their marriage.
For Fishburne, this meant another significant personal loss. Divorce in your 50s, after building a life and family with someone, is profoundly difficult. It requires rebuilding your sense of identity and figuring out who you are as a single person again after years of partnership. The divorce also meant less time with his youngest daughter, Delilah, who was only 10 when her parents separated. After experiencing the struggles with Montana, Fishburne was undoubtedly determined to maintain a strong relationship with Delilah. But custody arrangements and busy careers inevitably complicate parent-child relationships. Adding another layer of loss, Fishburne has spoken in interviews about losing friends and mentors over the years. The death of people who shaped his career and understood his journey has left him reflecting on mortality and legacy in ways that become more acute as you age. He's also faced the Hollywood reality that opportunities shift as you get older. While Fishburne remains a working actor with a successful career, he's no longer the first choice for leading roles. The industry's age bias affects everyone, and watching younger actors get opportunities you would have had at their age is its own form of loss. Even in his professional life, where Fishburne has achieved remarkable success, there have been significant disappointments that have stung despite his accomplishments. Perhaps the most visible heartbreak came with the Matrix franchise. Fishburne's Morpheus was integral to the original trilogy, one of the most beloved characters in a beloved franchise. So when Warner Bros. Announced The Matrix Resurrections in 2021, fans naturally assumed Fishburne would return. He didn't. The film was made without Morpheus, or rather, with a different version of the character played by another actor. Fishburne learned about the project like everyone else, and publicly acknowledged that he hadn't been asked to participate. While he handled the situation with grace, stating he wished the project well, the exclusion from such a significant franchise must have hurt. It wasn't just about money or screen time, it was about being erased from something he helped create. Morpheus was Fishburne's most iconic role, and to have the franchise continue without him felt like being told his contribution wasn't essential. Whether the decision was creative, financial, or personal, it represented a professional rejection that would sting any actor. There have been other professional disappointments too. Fishburne has been remarkably candid in interviews about roles he didn't get, projects that fell apart, and the frustration of being overlooked for parts he knew he could have excelled in. The entertainment industry is filled with rejection, even for accomplished actors, and those disappointments accumulate over a career. He's also spoken about the challenge of being typecast or limited by how Hollywood sees Black actors. Despite his range, from Shakespeare to science fiction to contemporary drama, he's sometimes been pigeonholed into specific types of roles. The wise mentor archetype that Morpheus exemplified became both a blessing and the curse, opening some doors while closing others. The financial realities have also been complicated. While Fishburne has certainly earned well over his career, he hasn't achieved the wealth of some of his contemporaries. His divorce settlement, child support obligations, and the general expenses of maintaining a career in Los Angeles have all affected his financial situation. He's working not just for artistic fulfillment, but also for practical necessity. There's also been the challenge of his public image. Fishburne is perceived, correctly, as serious, dignified, and intellectual. While these are admirable qualities, they can also make you seem unapproachable or lacking in humor. This perception may have cost him opportunities in comedy or lighter fare, where his talent would have been equally valuable. Additionally, there's an unfortunate reality of mistaken identity. Fishburne has been confused with Samuel L. Jackson multiple times, including in embarrassing television moments where entertainment reporters have made the error. While he's handled these incidents with patience, being consistently mistaken for another actor, however talented, is a subtle but persistent professional indignity. As Fishburne has entered his 60s, he's also faced the universal but deeply personal challenges of aging, health concerns, and contemplating mortality. While Fishburne hasn't publicly disclosed any major health crises, the physical demands of his career have taken their toll. Years of physical roles, stunts, and the general wear of maintaining a working actor's schedule affect your body. The energy required to work 14-hour days on set becomes harder to sustain as you age. There's also the psychological adjustment to aging in an industry obsessed with youth. Looking in the mirror and seeing someone significantly older than the person you remember being can be jarring. For actors whose bodies are their instruments, physical aging isn't just personal, it's professional. Fishburne has spoken about losing people close to him over the years. Deaths of friends, mentors, and colleagues force you to confront your own mortality. When you reach your 60s, funerals become more frequent than weddings, and you start thinking about legacy and what you'll leave behind. For someone who started working professionally as a child, there's also the question of when to stop. Fishburne shows no signs of retiring, but the decision about when and how to wind down a career is complex. Do you keep working until you physically can't? Do you step back while you're still capable? How do you transition from being a working actor to being retired without losing your sense of identity? The COVID-19 pandemic also affected Fishburne's generation particularly hard. Production shutdowns meant months without work. The risk calculations for someone in their 60s returning to sets during a pandemic were different than for younger actors. And the isolation of lockdowns was especially difficult for someone whose career depends on collaboration and human connection. There's also the reality of being a Black man in America navigating aging. The stress of racism, microaggressions, and navigating predominantly white spaces throughout a career takes a cumulative toll on mental and physical health. Studies show that this persistent stress contributes to health disparities, and Fishburne hasn't been immune to these systemic pressures. Despite all these challenges and heartbreaks, what's most remarkable about Laurence Fishburne's story is his resilience. He hasn't publicly complained, hasn't become bitter, and hasn't let personal tragedies destroy his professional excellence. He continues working steadily, taking roles in television series like Blackish, film projects, and voice work. He's adapted to the changing entertainment landscape, embracing streaming platforms and different types of content. His recent work shows an actor still engaged with his craft and still capable of delivering powerful performances. Regarding his daughter Montana, Fishburne has maintained appropriate boundaries while apparently remaining available should she genuinely seek help and change. That balance between not enabling destructive behavior and not completely abandoning your child is extraordinarily difficult to maintain. His relationship with his ex-wife Gina Torres appears respectful and focused on co-parenting their daughter effectively. Both have moved forward with their careers and personal lives without public acrimony. Fishburne has also become more selective about projects, choosing roles that interest him rather than simply chasing paychecks. This artistic integrity, maintained even during difficult financial and personal circumstances, speaks to his core values. He's involved in mentoring younger actors, sharing the wisdom he has accumulated over decades in the industry. This generativity, the desire to give back and help the next generation, is psychologically important for people in their 60s and provides meaning beyond personal success. Most importantly, Fishburne has maintained his dignity. Through family scandals, professional disappointments, and personal losses, he's remained composed, thoughtful, and focused on his work. That dignity isn't about being emotionless, it's about processing pain privately while continuing to function professionally.
The tragedy of Laurence Fishburne isn't one catastrophic event. It's the accumulation of heartbreaks that would test anyone's resilience. A daughter whose destructive choices played out publicly, a marriage that ended after 15 years, professional disappointments despite enormous success, the universal challenges of aging and loss. But calling it only a tragedy misses the other half of the story: remarkable resilience, maintained dignity, and continued excellence in his craft. Fishburne hasn't let his personal pain destroy his professional life. He hasn't become bitter or given up. He continues creating, working, and contributing to the art form he's dedicated his life to. His story reminds us that success doesn't protect you from suffering. Fame doesn't shield you from family struggles. Talent doesn't exempt you from life's hardships. Even the most dignified, accomplished people face heartbreak and have to find ways to keep going. What makes Laurence Fishburne's journey meaningful isn't that he avoided tragedy, it's that he survived it. He faced circumstances that would justify anger, bitterness, or withdrawal, and instead chose to keep working, keep creating, and maintain his integrity. At 64, Fishburne continues to embody the qualities that made Morpheus such an iconic character: wisdom earned through experience, strength that comes from surviving difficulty, and the understanding that reality is often more complicated and painful than it appears on the surface. His tragedy is heartbreaking, but his resilience is inspiring, and his continued excellence reminds us that we can survive our heartbreaks and still create something meaningful with what remains.